Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another interesting conversation on the Mindful Living podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and today we have a truly inspiring conversation lined up for you. Our guest is Sue Corl, an international women's conference speaker, author, mentor, and founder of Crown of Beauty International. She's also a missionary who has served across Asia for 25 years, and she's dedicated her life to helping women experience freedom from the lies they believe about themselves. Sue's personal journey is both powerful and transformative. Born with a severe cleft palate, she underwent 26 major surgeries as a child and faced years of verbal abuse and bullying. Despite these challenges, Sue has found healing through her faith, the support of her incredible mother, and holistic practices as well. And today on the Mindful Living, she's here to share how she has been set free from the past and she's living a life full of confidence, love, and generosity. So, listeners, let's dive into her story and explore how mindfulness, faith, and purpose can bring peace and healing into our lives. So, Sue, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Suna. It's so great to be here.
Lovely. So, your journey has been incredibly challenging, yet you have emerged with so much peace and purpose. So, if you can tell us about your early experiences growing up with a severe cleft palate and how they shaped your outlook on life.
Yeah, sure. So it definitely was a challenging road, I can say. As I was born with no nose, no upper lip, no upper palate, I was in the hospital most of my first 3 years. And after that, every summer until I was 15. And the problem with that was, of course, missing some school and having speech impediment, having to eat special foods. But the greatest struggle was the teasing, because from early on, as soon as I started school, the boys would tease me. And this had a tremendous negative impact, I will say, on me of hearing these lies, and I will call them lies every day, that I'm ugly, that I should just go home, that I'm stupid, that I'm not good enough, that I'm worthless, all these kinds of things, rejectable, unlovable. I began to believe those lies if you hear them every day and enough. But what really helped me to begin with was my mom. She actually saved my life because the doctors said that I should be taken home to die when I was 3 weeks old because I was losing so much weight. They couldn't figure out how to get food into me. It was quite a long time ago, and they really didn't know how to, I don't know how they do it today, but how they could get nutrition to me. My mom took me home not to die. She had a strong Christian faith and would pray. And when we got into the house, she just found all these things to rig a mask, actually out of a toy of my brother's, to put on my face and attach the bottle. She'd been pumping her breast for those 3 weeks and put it in the freezer. And she was able to get food into me. And after 3 months, took me back and insisted that the doctor take care of me. The beautiful thing is that my mother was a registered nurse there on the pediatric ward watching kids. And this hospital had the #1 cleft palate doctor in the country. And so cleft palate babies were being flown in for 2 years already to get special help. And my mom specialized in them. So when I came along, it's really God had prepared her, and she knew how to take care of me. And she had greater faith in the doctors that there was great purpose to my life. And so throughout my childhood, sometimes I come home crying or feeling really down on myself. And my mom always would affirm me, comfort me, encourage me, and help me to really believe in myself. One way that she did that was she thought, well, I'm scared at, made fun of a lot. So she went out and bought a show dog, a little puppy, but from a breed of show dogs. And she got me into a dog show so that I could have people looking at me, but for good reasons. And that was beautiful. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have the money to keep that up. But then I got into athletics and I discovered I was a very good athlete. And once again, people were looking, but for a good reason. And that gave me a lot of confidence. So that's how it all started in my childhood.
Lovely, lovely. That's a really, really empowering and such an inspiring journey. It gives so much of positivity and the will to fight back and prove. Not exactly. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone else. I think the most beautiful takeaway from your journey is the incredible support of your mother, because it's one of the luckiest gifts we can have. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Yeah, it really taught me as I became a mother the power of a mother's words, and that we really need to keep our words very positive. A lot of what I do now is help mothers to have more positive encouragement, I think, to their children. Sometimes we so much are trying to help them that we focus too much on what they're not doing well or right or how they could do it better. We think we're helping, but actually we're tearing them down. And what we need to focus on is helping them discover the fullness of their potential, because, a lot of kids, they don't know, and helping them begin to discover the areas that they're uniquely equipped or have that potential to shine, rather than, beating them over the head because they're not getting a good math grade, or focusing on an area that maybe you are good at or you think's important, but is not a strength for them. So I was really able to bring that into my mothering of my children. And, even though they were two people who couldn't do math, and we were at that time at a school that was predominantly, it was international school, Koreans who were amazing in math. But rather than just focusing all the energy, I have to help them be as good as the Koreans, I rather really tried to pay attention to what they naturally, even they didn't realize, were good at. So for my daughter, she was out counseling people on the playground, and my kids would line up when she's 6, 7, 8 to get her advice. And so I really saw that she shines in the area of both communication, which her teachers affirmed, and in and encouraging others. And so sure enough, she's in that field now. And my son, when he would watch TV or movies, he didn't just the typical reaction. He'd be like, hey, they use those songs in this movie or that movie, or there's just something special about the way that they filmed that movie. And so sure enough, now he writes movies, and we helped move him and getting experience and talent in ways that would help him towards that profession.
Lovely, lovely. Superb. So, such positivity and encouragement in the beginning of the conversation itself. So, moving on, you have mentioned that your faith played a significant role in your healing process. How did your spiritual journey help you break free from the lies of your past and find your true identity?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So it was interesting that even though I gained a lot of confidence and I did well through athletics, even making it the United States women's lacrosse team, playing 2 years internationally, yet then I went on into youth work to help college students. And even though in that time I was getting stronger in my personal faith and a Christian faith, I still deep down, some of those lies were still lodged in my mind, particularly around men. I would be uncomfortable. I would feel like, oh no, they might look at me and stare at me and reject me because they still can see the scars of my cleft palate. And I would feel nervous around them. And it wasn't really so conscious. It was kind of a subconscious thing. So what happened is was working with a team of other youth workers, and one particular guy was such a sweet guy, but he really reminded me of my dad in many ways. And though I love my dad left our family when I was 12, and he rejected my mom. And then as a child, I felt like he was rejecting me, right? And he divorced her. And so it was one more time that a man was rejecting me, but it was the most significant man in my life. So I realized that when I was working with this guy, I was just way too critical and I didn't treat him. And then I realized really all the men in the same way I was treating women. I was so kind to the women, full of generosity and grace and encouragement. And around the men, I was kind of strict. I'd be like, have you done this? Did you get this done? Did you, that kind of thing. Of course, I was still single. And I realized, wow, something's not right here. There's something in my heart that is not right. And I began to pray. And I'm like, God, could you please help me understand why I still feel this anxiousness around men that causes me to be a little too cranky around them, and not encouraging. Well, right at that time, I'd already had this practice of reading the Bible every day. And I would say somewhat meditatively, not just like reading stories, but really camping out on a section and mulling it over and thinking, how does this apply, or that kind of thing. Well, I came to this one verse that said that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I praise you, God, for this. And I realized all these years I read through that verse, and I didn't acknowledge that I actually didn't believe that. But I realized at that point that my conviction is that all of the Bible is true, and this is God's word, and that means that I really am fearfully and wonderfully made. And so I began to dig into the original language of that. And what I realized is what fearfully meant is that, and wonderfully, is that I am unique, and yet I am created in the image of God, or I am a reflection of his beauty, of his value, of his wonderful, generous character, of his kindness, of his love, that I'm a reflection of that. And so it hit me for the first time that this is how my Creator sees me, and this is how I am to see myself. It doesn't matter what a few people might think. The truth is, I am beautiful because God is beautiful. I am created in his image. And so that had a huge impact in my mind. Well, what that taught me is that we can meditate on, so this would apply to all of you listening, no matter what your beliefs are or whatnot, but we can meditate on, I would call it truth, or on those positive affirmations. And we can, because the truth is that your creator has created you in wonderful ways, and every single one of us has value and worth. We're special, we're intelligent, we're beautiful, we're put here on this earth with an incredible purpose, and our creator himself honors us and values us and knows and believes in us that we have something wonderful to bring. But it's up to us to believe that and to then meditate on it. That's where I call the mindfulness, is taking one of those statements at a time and just spending time to ruminate over it, like a cow that eats and eats and re-eats it, but just meditating on that. So I do that as I'm walking my dog. I'll take one of those affirmations, I'll meditate on it. I put them around my walls. I have them very visible. And what you'll see is that you're actually changing your neural pathways from going from those negative thoughts that release those negative hormones and chemicals that create very negative feelings of depression or anxiety, sadness, to new neurons will be built that release all the dopamine, epinephrine, all those things that bring that joy and peace into your life.
That is very much true. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Sue, holistic practices have been an essential part of your healing. So, what are some of those practices you follow, and how do they contribute to your daily life of peace, energy, and purpose?
Yeah, thanks. So I would say in more recent years, and of course the research is growing every day and helping us in this, but learning to not just run to foods that are harmful, like sugar, and in my case, gluten, and some of these things that maybe have a very temporary make you feel good, but in the long run have a very negative impact on your body. They have not only affect your weight, they affect your energy. It affects your joints and your ability to feel pain-free, And so I started to, I got some testing to really find out what foods I'm sensitive to. And really very short amount of time of changing my diet to eat really healthy foods, I have found that I have energy like never before. Asthma went away. The joint pains went away. I lost weight, even though I eat plenty, but I'm eating healthy, like leafy greens and healthy meats and fish and that kind of thing, not processed food, some of those things. That has made a huge difference, and that will affect you mentally as well. You will feel not only better about yourself, but mentally clearer instead of having that foggy brain, And so practicing other things like breathing exercises, deep breathing, relaxation methodology. I'm learning more and more about that. I think getting into that whole world of wellness is so important because we are holistic beings. So we don't want to just focus on one area, just the physical or just the emotional or just the spiritual, but all of them, developing and growing all of those because they all impact one another.
That's true. That's true. Superb, superb, Sue. And you have also a deep passion for helping women walk in victory over lies about themselves and their relationship with God. So, what are some of the most common lies women struggle with, and how do you guide them toward freedom?
Yeah, the most common, I think women overall have a deep sense of wanting to feel beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to feel loved, wanting to feel understood, and wanting to feel accepted. And so a lot of women, they don't feel good enough. They feel ugly or rejectable, unlovable. There's a verse in the Bible that says that we are honored and we are valued and we are loved by God. And that verse, boy, people buy magnets from me to have that verse on there um, because it really speaks to people, as does the one I already shared in Psalm 139 that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And so I think women, I know there's a book out now, Worthy, and that it's like overnight a bestseller because, and I bought the book, and it's good, but it's highly repetitive. I think it's really interesting because just over and over and over, the author is telling us you are worthy. And that's what we want to hear. That's what women don't believe because too often, and I can say this is all around the world, but in some areas where women are really looked down upon, that, if you have a girl, I asked when I lived in China, I would do these conferences and I'd say to the women, raise your hand if when you were born, some in your family were really disappointed that you weren't a boy. And every single hand would go up. Occasionally, out of 100 people, one would not raise their hand. It was so sad. And there's so many countries I go to that I get that same response. And yet that's so sad because the boys and girls are so equally beautiful and valuable and have a significant purpose on this planet Earth. And so I think women really have that longing to feel valuable and special.
That's absolutely hard hitting truth, you said, because in India as well, although we are still progressing from the point of view in terms of society, however, in still villages or remote areas, there's
Mhm.
still a lot of disappointment when there's a girl child because here there is a huge misconception or the backward mentality that a girl child is just a burden on the entire family, a big financial burden. So I totally agree with you, and this is
Mhm.
really heartbreaking, disappointing. However, the change is still happening. People are having a much progressive mindset, and I think, with you and people spreading the word, the awareness, and doing their efforts in favor of this entire concept, how
Mhm.
beautiful both a boy and girl are the creation of God. I think we will definitely go towards a better, secured future. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
I agree. There's sometimes the places, and by the way, I do go to India in March, and I go to Bangladesh every year.
Mhm.
But some of the places that I go, I can remember one particular place I was in Uganda, and after the conference, all these women came up and said, "Oh, I'm going to enroll my daughter in school." And I said, "What?" And they're like, yeah, well, I didn't want to spend the money on her. I just had my boy going to school, but now I realize that my girl, she's valuable too, and she deserves to go to school. It's really precious. And so one of the things we did is gave them enough money to buy the school uniforms for all their girls. So we try to do humanitarian aid to go along with the messages that we're teaching to help value themselves, but value their little girls as well. And that's why things are getting better, like you said, in India, because the more that we can offer education, good
Right.
quality education to women,
Right.
the more that they can live out their full potential.
Absolutely true. Lovely, lovely, Sue. And this, as we discussed about some of uh, the issues you have seen, especially women facing in Asian countries, at a global perspective, from a global perspective, what are some of the universal challenges women deal with, regardless of culture, and how do you address them in your ministry?
I think sadly, abuse is a big one. I go to Muslim countries, even in Fiji. They were sharing that over 60% of the women and children are abused. I see in some countries where men will marry the women and then have them get pregnant, have a few kids, and then they take off and go get another wife. And that just happens all over the planet. So I think one of the things we try to help women with is how to handle abuse. We help men as well. I'm helping refugees like from Ukraine, Sudan, Syria. And I think helping them learn how to grieve, how to take their sorrows to God and just receive his comfort. Also, how to sometimes we teach people to, kind of prayerfully ask God, is there an area from my past that you want to really heal? And he'll bring back, they'll get a memory. We don't like to, I am actually a counselor, but the people I take are not necessarily counselors that are helping, but I train them on some level just to, as they experience without going heavily into reliving that trauma. That's not what I mean, but just acknowledging that when this certain trauma happened, these are the lies that I began to believe, either about myself or about somebody else or life or even God. And so then we want to, once we acknowledge those lies, we help them replace that with the truth and then begin to meditate upon those truths to get free. Because out of trauma will always come lies. And we can't really get free until we can, one, acknowledge what came out during that time and then replace that with the more positive, affirmative thought processes.
True, that's true. And how
sometimes, I was going to say, I'm sorry. Sometimes we also, it's just coming in and loving these people. I can think of so many situations, but I remember this one story of a gal who came and she was an orphan. From Sudan, and she had come down into Uganda and she was pregnant. And then, of course, the man abandoned her. So here she is herself an orphan. So she had this last name, that Baka, that they give you in I don't know if it got in Sudan or Uganda, but that simply means you belong to no one. And that was her identity. I belong to no one. And so we went in after she shared her trauma and her story, we began to pray over her. And I just began to speak truth that she's chosen by God. And so we gave her a new last name and she legally changed her name to Jessica Chosen. And then we gave her a sewing machine so she could begin to get some income. She knew how to sew and make clothing so that her little baby could come back and live with her and she could raise her child. So I think there can be beautiful ways that we can help people by understanding the wrong ways that themselves or others have named them and giving them a new name.
This is really inspiring, Sue. Really inspiring. Great. And how do you balance the emotional demands of your work? So when you see and experience the trauma with your own eyes, and also maintaining your personal well-being, what practices or habits keep you grounded in peace and energy?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I'm going through that right now because I have some of my closest friends are in Lebanon, and I don't need to
Oh,
tell you what's going on in Lebanon, and bombs are going off 20
yeah.
minutes from their homes, and been asking them, can I help you get out of the country? And, all these things. So it's been pretty challenging. Yeah, I think we all need community, honestly. I don't think it's helpful if you're going through a hard thing. Some people, some of you listening might be in this camp where you just feel like, I don't want to bother others. Yeah, throw that out the window. We need to bother each other, honestly. And when you share with another, hey, I'm really going through this hard thing. Can I talk to you, or can I just share it with you, or can you pray for me if you're into that, whatever you're into? But we need, can you go have a cup of coffee with me, and can I tell you what's going on? We really need that. And you know what? Then you can be there for them when they go through that hard thing. So, one of the things that we've done in Crown of Beauty International, that's a nonprofit that I started, is I have a volunteer group. There are three of us who are employed, but the others are volunteers.
Mhm.
And we meet every week, and we have on our phone, whether it's through WeChat, uh, or whether it's through WhatsApp, or whether it's through iMessaging, whichever works in your country, or there's some other ones. So we have a group, and we throughout the week will just share, hey, can you pray for this? Hey, can you pray for that? Or I need this, or can anyone help me with this? Or what do you guys think of this? And it really helps. I know that when I have those hard weeks, I know I get to meet them most weeks. Some weeks, some come, some can't, but I'm at least in touch every week, and I know they're there to support me. And of course, you might get closer to some and other, and of course, those are the ones that reach out and say, "Hey, I want to catch a cup of coffee with you. I know you must be really hurting because of what your friends are going through." So I really, really stress that you don't be so independent that you don't have that wonderful community. For some of you, that might be your family, and that's great. But just make sure you have people there that you're willing to get help from, and just know that your day will come and you'll get to help them.
Absolutely. Great, great, Sue. And before we wrap up, for listeners who may feel stuck in their own past pains or traumas, what steps would you recommend them to start their own journey toward healing, confidence, and freedom?
Yeah, well, you can contact us in Crown of Beauty International at gmail.com, and or at Gmail if you want to email us. I do have a book coming out. Actually, you can already order it on Amazon, called Shaking Off the Shackles. And Shaking Off the Shackles will guide you through some great steps to help you. It is Christian based, but I think that no matter where you're coming from, you will enjoy that. I would say a lot of what I shared, just think through, are there lies behind my emotions, behind my behaviors that are not helping me? Because when we begin to realize that it's these beliefs or these lies that are driving our emotions of anxiety or depression or sadness or anger or rage, or our behaviors of some kind of addiction or whatever it is, that's stemming from a belief or a lie that we're believing about ourselves or about God. Example, when I get anxious about money, I just think, well, what am I actually believing here? Am I actually really thinking that it's the end of the world, or I'll never be able to pay this and I'm so anxious? Or am I doubting that my God is going to provide and take care of me, in my case, because of my beliefs? And that really helps bring me a lot of freedom. So if you're constantly fighting with your husband, perhaps you feel like you have no worth. What's the lie there? Well, that's not true. And begin to bring those positive affirmations that will give you greater confidence and probably help you to then not scream at your husband when he is neglecting you or coming home late or not appreciating you or whatever. So I would say that really finding the root behind the emotions and the behavior will help you, and then processing and thinking about the truth.
Lovely, lovely, Sue. And if our listeners also want to connect with you, how they can do that?
Yeah, so go to crownofbeautyinternational@gmail.com, or at Gmail, sorry, or crownofbeautyinternational.com is our website, and you can connect with us.
Lovely. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your powerful story of resilience, faith, and freedom, and your journey from overcoming childhood trauma to empowering women globally. It is truly, truly inspiring. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been my pleasure. So I hope that you can hop on my podcast as well, which is called His Heartbeat. And so I hope I can connect with lots of you.
Lovely, lovely. We'll have this as well mentioned in the show notes. So, listeners, I hope you have been moved as I have by Sue's words and wisdom. And remember, no matter what challenges or lies you've believed about yourself, healing and peace are possible. You can find more about Sue's work at Crown of Beauty International and listen to her podcast. We'll have all the details mentioned. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode of the Mindful Living podcast. And thank you again, and stay mindful and stay inspired.